we want to completely transform how consultations work. So this is our entry point into the consultation room, which
Hmm.
is kind of the starting point and the central point of the doctor-patient interaction. And in our vision, this is going to be completely transformed and it's going to be completely ambient. So that's the buzzword that's typically used to describe what we do.
Hmm.
Um, this is similar in technology to like an Alexa that you have at home, where you can just say, um, Alexa, play some music or order me something on uh, whatever
Yeah.
platform. And it will be similar in that the whole encounter between the doctor and the patient is enhanced with technology that can almost tell what you want to do next,
Hmm.
and anticipate that. So we are taking notes for the doctor automatically, and we're presenting decision support. So if the doctor mentions a specific kind of treatment protocol that they might want to prescribe, then we can automatically pull that up and present it. Or if the patient mentions a certain symptom group, then we can add diagnostic support, or we can pull up something in the patient history that
Hmm.
is indicative that this patient might exhibit some certain trend because 5 years ago they said something similar, and now we know that they have a pattern of repeated symptoms that we can have a look at. So it's real time proactive decision support for the doctor in the
Yeah.
consultation room.
Welcome to Women Disrupting Tech. My name is Jacqueline Kazmaier, and on this podcast, I give the women who work in tech the platform they need to inspire and empower each other. Join me on a journey into the world of entrepreneurship, funding, biases, and role models to discover the strategies for success in the tech industry. In other words, how women can disrupt tech. Are you ready to listen? Hey, welcome back to Women Disrupting Tech. Thank you for listening to episode 56. Did you know that for every hour that a doctor spends with a patient, they spend 2 hours on administrative tasks? No wonder doctors have an extremely high rate of burnout related to this administrative overload. The $1 million question, though, is how we can do this better. Can we improve healthcare using technology? And can we do that with AI? If you want to learn the answer to that question, you've landed on the right episode, because my guest today is Autoscriber CEO and co-founder Jacqueline Kazmaier. Autoscriber is transforming doctor-patient interactions by extracting relevant patient information from the conversations that they have and putting them in the electronic patient file. In the end, the goal of Autoscriber is to improve the health of 1 million people per year. In this episode of Women Disrupting Tech, Jacqueline is our guide in the world of health tech as we discover how automated clinical note taking can improve the health of people, what it is like to be a co founder in health tech if you don't have a medical degree, and if the Netherlands is a good starting point for health tech companies like Autoscriber. Plus, we'll discover what holacracy is and how it helps Autoscriber build their business. So when you're ready to listen and learn how AI can improve the patient experience, please welcome to Women Disrupting Tech, Jacqueline Kazmaier. So welcome, Jacqueline. Good to have you on Women Disrupting Tech. Question I always ask at the start of the podcast is how you got into your current job or current position, and start wherever you want.
Thanks for having me. Um, so I always had a huge passion for mathematics and also for business. So I decided to study industrial engineering for my bachelor's. So that gave me a really good mix of how technology works on the one hand and also how business works on the other hand.
Mm-hmm.
And in my bachelor's thesis, then I was exposed for the first time to the field of machine learning,
Mm-hmm.
and I got super hooked in that year on this whole field. And I decided then for my master's to do a semester abroad, studying deep learning at the Technical University in Munich at the computer science faculty.
Uh-huh.
And there I just went really deeper and deeper down this rabbit hole of what is deep learning and how can we use it in practice. And I especially got very hooked on natural language processing and how we can teach computers how to understand natural language. And
Mm-hmm.
I stuck with that. And I did my PhD in sentiment analysis and decision making based around that. And I just found it really extremely interesting. And then I later went into AI consulting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually where I met my current co founder, and also where we got introduced to the LUMC and the project that ultimately resulted in us creating Autoscriber.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it was extremely exciting for me to be able to apply this tech in healthcare, because I also always wanted to be a doctor, but I couldn't really stomach the physical part of that. So this was a
Uh-huh.
good trade off to be able to have the tech and the industry and actually implement it in a place that has real impact.
Yeah. So what got you hooked on the AI and machine learning?
I think the most interesting concept for me was how it flips the the whole concept of analysis like I knew it before on its head. So
Mm-hmm.
previously you would write algorithms as like a methodology and a recipe in order to specifically get to some sort of outcome. And this
Mm-hmm.
um, basically is a paradigm where if you throw enough data at a large enough algorithm with large
Mm-hmm.
enough compute power, you can infer a lot of things that you can't even see or analyze afterwards as a human with a human kind of linear reasoning. And I found that
Mm-hmm.
fascinating.
Okay. So maybe good. You are co-founder of Autoscriber. Can you explain what Autoscriber does? What problem it solves?
Yeah. So the problem that we're trying to solve is basically a double-edged sword. So on the
Mm-hmm.
one hand, we have the fact that doctors and medical professionals of all kinds are extremely overloaded with administration at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So for every 2 hours, for every hour that a doctor spends with a patient, they actually spend 2 hours writing clinical notes and working in the electronic health record, which is a staggering statistic.
Yeah.
So they waste a lot of time on administration. They have extremely high rates of burnout that are tied to this administrative overload. And that
Uh-huh.
actually is a downward spiral in the industry because people are leaving the profession due to being overloaded with administration. And that, of
Yeah.
course, makes the problem even harder to bear for all of the
Mm-hmm.
medical professionals that are left.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of this double-edged sword that I mentioned, we have
Mm-hmm.
the data problem, and that although doctors are spending so much time on administration, the actual
Mm-hmm.
data that's captured about each patient and about each consultation that they have with the patient is not very structured and not very detailed, and it's also not standardized across different doctors, different hospitals. So if you look at where the healthcare industry is going, everything points towards precision medicine and data driven
Mm-hmm.
healthcare, where we can make more and more individualized treatment plans for patients. But all
Yeah.
of that presupposes that we have very good data on each patient, and that's currently really not the case.
Ah.
So what we do is we tackle both of these problems at the same time by automating the clinical note taking process. So
Okay.
while the doctor is busy with the patient, they
Mm-hmm.
switch on Autoscriber and we capture the entire encounter and all of the important medical information that's mentioned. And we basically, as a digital scribe, take notes for the doctor during the consultation. So that can be the history of present illness that they discuss with the patient. It can also
Mm-hmm.
be physical examination, test results that they mention. We capture all of that and we structure it and import it back into the electronic health record so that at the end of the day, the doctor doesn't have to take a lot of notes themselves. They don't have to do a lot of editing. So they
Mm-hmm.
save a lot of time and frustration. And on the other hand, the data is very neatly structured and also standardized across different patients so that we have better data interoperability.
Yeah. And they can also actually spend time with the patient.
Exactly. Yeah,
So
that's
have a, let's say, more deep empathetic conversation about what is happening without having to worry that all this needs to be captured somewhere.
Exactly. So one of the biggest anecdotes that we hear is that while the doctor is in consultation with the patient, they actually mostly have their eyes on the screen and
Yeah.
they're typing and clicking and looking at the
Hmm.
computer instead of looking at the
Yeah.
patient. And that really impacts the kind of relationship that they can build up.
Yeah. Yeah, that latter part I really recognize when I don't go to a doctor very often, but it's usually they're looking at their screen and typing and and then nodding to you. Please continue, but yeah, it's difficult to replicate this on audio, by the way. Um, but I think we all get the picture of the busy doctor. What I also hear you say is that it's can I compare this to, let's say, the app that we're recording this podcast on actually does the transcripts automatically? Is this sort of the same way of working?
Yeah, it's quite similar. So we also generate the transcript during the conversation.
Uh huh.
And our models are then specifically fine tuned to the medical use case.
Mm-hmm.
So picking up different medications, but then the real power of what we do is not just the speech to text functionality, but the actual summarization and getting all of the structured data out. So you know exactly this is the anamnesis, this is the social history, this is the physical examination, and we can generate discrete data elements that say, okay, this medication in this dosage was mentioned, or the blood pressure reading is 120 over 80, and we can actually
Mm-hmm.
have that in integer formats. So giving a really rich, medically tailored summary in different formats depending on which specialty is working with the
Uh-huh.
software.
So there's the voice recognition element to it, and the speech recognition, and also understanding what people are actually are saying. And then the second element is sort of translating that into quote unquote doctor speak.
Exactly, yeah, and in a very structured format.
So it's actually also it can be used for other doctors as well. Not
Yeah,
not not that particular patient, of course, but the methodology.
exactly, yeah. So our aim is that at least in every specialty, that you can
Mm.
have a similar looking patient record for each encounter so that you can really compare across patients and you don't have the variability of individual doctors in between.
Okay. So what is the end stage of that? This because I understand where it is right now, technology wise, but what do you want to achieve over time?
So I
What's the
think
B hack?
we want to completely transform how consultations work. So this is our entry point into the consultation room, which
Hmm.
is kind of the starting point and the central point of the doctor-patient interaction. And in our vision, this is going to be completely transformed and it's going to be completely ambient. So that's the buzzword that's typically used to describe what we do.
Hmm.
Similar in technology to like an Alexa that you have at home, where you can just say, um, Alexa, play some music or order me something on uh, whatever
Yeah.
platform. And it will be similar in that the whole encounter between the doctor and the patient is enhanced with technology that can almost tell what you want to do next,
Hmm.
and anticipate that. So we are taking notes for the doctor automatically, and we're presenting decision support. So if the doctor mentions a specific kind of treatment protocol that they might want to prescribe, then we can automatically pull that up and present it. Or if the patient mentions a certain symptom group, then we can add diagnostic support, or we can pull up something in the patient history that
Hmm.
is indicative that this patient might exhibit some certain trend because 5 years ago they said something similar, and now we know that they have a pattern of repeated symptoms that we can have a look at. So it's real time proactive decision support for the doctor in the
Yeah.
consultation room.
So it's actually a companion for the doctor mostly.
Yes, exactly.
Is it any chance that this will move into the patient domain,
So
like
some
self-diagnostics?
I think there's definitely potential for that. It's not the first route
No.
that we want to prescribe, but we are actually also working with some parties to see how much we can do in the like before patients get to the doctor. So how many cases could we, with using this technology and using diagnostic prediction, actually um, get catch before they enter the
Yeah.
doctor's office? But that's not really the route that we're following for
No.
now. But ways that we're also looking at getting deeper into the patient angle, or just being able to also share this kind of conversation and summary with the patient after they've spoken to the doctor.
Yeah.
Because what we found is patients actually forget 80% of what's discussed with the doctor immediately when they leave the room, which
Uh,
is
that and they forget to mention all kinds of important things. And if they can listen back to the recording, they can say all of a sudden that comes into their mind, and they can actually add it to maybe later to at least to the file at the doctor's.
exactly, yeah. And they have the opportunity then to share with their loved ones what was discussed with the doctor.
Hmm.
So, thinking about cases in oncology, for example, where there's a lot of information presented in one sitting,
Yeah.
where patients typically receive bad news. So they have, I think, quite low retention rates of all of the
Yeah.
important information. And on the other hand, you also have caring for the elderly or caring for children, where there are multiple people involved that want to be informed about what's been happening. And if we have the ability to, in a patient friendly terminology, share
Hmm.
what was discussed, that
Yeah.
also helps us to bring the patient back into the process.
Yeah, I think, and that's also, yeah, it. I think that that part. So also bringing the patient into the process, and also helping the patient deal with it, is really important. Also from an empathy point of view, because I actually recognize the oncology part. I've been in that room with my girlfriend. So and you don't retain like half of what is said at that point in time. There's so much coming at you. Yeah, it's easier. It's easy to have a companion than who can, yeah, sort of where you can replay the conversation and get out the important bits. I was wondering though, because as my experience with the health tech space is that on the one hand, everyone recognizes that we cannot scale humans, so we need to really use technology. At the other hand, there's also a bit of fear of innovation sometimes. How do you look at that? Also for this particular use case?
Yeah, I think in general, in my stance, AI is a tool for the doctor. It's not a replacement for the doctor.
Mm.
And I think I don't know exactly who came up with this quote, but AI will not outperform doctors, but doctors who use AI will definitely outperform doctors who do not use AI.
Yeah.
So it's it is a scary paradigm, but I think we've had this kind of innovation before, and ultimately one should look at it as what one can gain from it and how we can use it to improve the efficiency and the accuracy of what medicine can deliver now. And especially when we have workforce shortages all
Hmm.
over the healthcare space, there's so much good that we can do with this kind of technology.
Yeah, but and that's also what I believe. Uh, and at the same time, I still have a lot of. I hear a lot of times, well, yeah, but they could have technology can have it wrong, so let's not do it.
True, true, but doctors get it wrong too.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's always good to keep in mind. If we have a 97% accuracy rate on artificial intelligence, but
Mm.
what is that rate if we look at doctors themselves? think humans are so imperfect, and the way that we can use this kind of technology is actually putting um, the technology and putting the humans in their areas of strength. So there's certain things that computers are better at than
Yeah.
humans, and vice versa.
Yeah, pattern detection, I think, is something where computers are or AI is generally better, and also the diagnosis that comes from it, or at least being a companion by suggesting, hey, maybe you need to look at the blood test again, because I'm seeing, or Mr. AI can see the that there may be something wrong. Um, I want to move to a slightly different topic, because you mentioned you have a background in mechanical engineering,
Industrial engineering, yeah.
sorry, industrial engineering. That's not a medical field.
No, it isn't.
Uh, does it actually help you? The lack of medical background, does it help you in developing Autoscriber as it is right now?
I think a little bit of both. So in one hand, it helps because it's sometimes more effective to be a little bit naive on how things
Mm-hmm.
are done
Yeah.
currently, so that it makes it a lot easier to bring in something that's completely left field and completely new.
Mm-hmm.
So I think having that little bit of naivety to how the process currently works can definitely be an advantage, because we look at a problem and think, okay, well, we could do it this way. And we
Mm-hmm.
don't have that inherent bias of, well, this is the way that it's always been done.
Yeah.
So I think that helps a lot. And on the other hand, of course, we are building something for doctors. So it's extremely important that we are close to the end user and close to um, the people that will actually be using it, to make sure that we are building something that's actually useful. So in that sense, it's very nice that we have our research partners at the LMC, and that we have our early adopting customers really very engaged with us and working very closely with us to make sure that we get it right, and that we don't
Mm-hmm.
develop something and then try to push it into the market without having the necessary
Yeah.
background.
Yeah, they are invested in the product as well, I think. The people at LUMC particularly.
Yeah, they have a lot of yeah, they give us a lot of input. We do a lot of studies with them, and they've just been very close to the process from the get-go.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What you do have is a PhD in, I think you did your PhD on sentiment analysis.
Yes.
How does that help you with Autoscriber? Maybe first explain what sentiment analysis means in this case.
So sentiment analysis is basically the study of emotion and polarity in my case in text. So
Yeah.
I was analyzing various different massive corpora of text, for example,
Mm-hmm.
text messages of customer feedback that were coming into a bank, or um, different customer reviews or feedback sent in. And what sentiment analysis tools do is they analyze that text and identify, for example, if something is positive or negative, or
Mm-hmm.
also identify different emotions. So if someone is frustrated or something like that, and that can help along with other NLP tools like topic analysis to be able to very quickly make sense of a big collection of texts in order
Uh-huh.
to take action on it. So, in the case where one of the case studies that I had was a bank that was receiving thousands of feedback text messages every day from customers,
Uh-huh.
it's very difficult for humans to sift through that and try to figure out
Yeah.
what's actually going on. But if you combine topic analysis and sentiment analysis, you can quite nicely abstract that into, okay, customers are feeling positive about customer service, they're feeling negative about the amount of ATM machines that are
Hmm.
available, and that kind of analysis is performed using natural language processing tools, basically.
Okay. And how does that help in terms of for Autoscriber? How does that help in recording? I can understand that it helps if you record also the emotion of a conversation, that it helps you um, maybe paint a little bit of picture of how the patient is feeling. But what does it help a doctor to do their diagnosis better?
So I think it could also be a relevant addition to our products, and
Mhm.
especially in the psychology field.
Yeah.
We've actually received that question several times if we could add some sort of emotion recognition. But
Hmm.
on the other hand, what I did in my PhD, although it was sentiment analysis, the framework is actually quite similar for all kinds of language understanding that is built today.
Hmm.
So the way that the technology works is basically that in the first step, you translate the natural language onto a mathematical space.
Hmm.
And I think when I was doing this, the mathematical space was a lot smaller than what we have now with the likes of large language models like ChatGPT and things like that. But
Hmm.
the principle is the same, that you can translate natural language into mathematical space, and
Hmm.
using the right tools, you can map different concepts in that mathematical space and see which concepts are close to each other. And that's actually what I found so fascinating. But that kind of step, whether you're analyzing sentiment, whether you're trying to figure out which kind of clinical information is mentioned, that's the same kind of process that you can
Yeah.
follow.
Hmm.
So the background information of just basically how we can translate natural language into a different framework that computers can make sense of and actually generate useful output on top of is the same.
Okay. I want to switch gears a bit, move into the investor space, because you have Lumo as investors, Lumo
Mhm.
Labs. Um, I was wondering, so you don't have a medical degree, which is helpful because you can look at the problem without the let's say the legacy of what happened in the past, how we all dealt with this problem before. On the other hand, you have a yeah, really deep knowledge of machine learning or of large language models. How does that help you in towards investors? Do your pitching?
Yeah, I think at the moment there's a massive influx of new startups that came kind of post ChatGPT hype that are doing things
Hmm.
with large language models. And given the composition of our team, when I started working on language models and when we as a company started working on this problem, we have a much longer history with both the technology and the actual problem that we're solving. So I think that gives a lot of confidence to investors that we're well rooted to actually make this product a success. So I think there's
Hmm.
um, a bit of a risk with some of the new players that come in now that are building something without actually having deep knowledge of how the AI works, and then it gets a little bit difficult to build something past a simple prototype that looks impressive.
Hmm.
Um, so I think it's yeah, it just showcases that we have a deeper background and a deeper knowledge of how to build this into a successful product.
Yeah. Does it also create trust with investors that you can actually deliver because you're let's say you're not you've started before the hype.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that's part of the effect.
Another thing I spotted is that you use a concept called holacracy. Maybe I butcher this, but it's a management concept, and Maybe can you explain what it is and how it works and why you chose this?
Sure. So maybe off the bat, I'm still quite a holacracy newbie. So we
Okay.
have three colleagues at the company that have worked with it before at their previous company, and they're
Uh,
currently helping us to see how we can best implement it at Autoscriber. And so for now, we're implementing it with one of our teams.
mm-hmm,
Um, and basically, how it works is like a self organizing system. So if you look at nature, you have like bee colonies and ant colonies, for example, that actually
mm-hmm,
work quite similarly to this system. So for taking an ant colony, each ant makes its own decisions according to a certain set of processes and rules. It's not a top down hierarchical organization where one ant is telling all the other ants exactly what to
mm-hmm.
do. And yet, if you zoom out and observe the system, it's a highly functioning and effective
Yeah.
and very productive system.
Mm-hmm,
So, taking those effects into business, it's basically distributed decision making so that the people that are closest to the problem also have the power to make decisions.
mm-hmm.
And it's ever evolving. So, we hold what are called governance meetings, and we address things that come up in everyday life with real world examples where people feel any kind of tension. For example, if um, you had a meeting with a customer and you got a question and you didn't know where to find the answer, that's
Yeah.
an example. Or you struggled to get a project to a certain outcome because of the communication with a certain team member. Those kinds of things are treated as tensions, and they are addressed by making changes to the way that we work together. So in that way, the system is ever evolving. So you don't pick one way of working and then 3 months down the line realize that you need to change everything and have a whole restructuring. But it's a process by which we can constantly evolve how we work together based on what's really happening in the day-to-day work.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's very useful for startups, because what we do is constantly changing.
Yeah.
And I think if we were to pick one organization method, we would definitely have to change it a couple of times in our lifespan. And this gives us a way to make very small changes along the way, which
Mm-hmm.
results in us working together in the most effective way
Yeah.
possible.
It's also a bit of AI, sort of self-learning system.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
So
Each
that,
uh, each data point makes a small adjustment to the model
yeah,
weights.
exactly.
Yeah.
And also because you just almost straight away, or at least make a deliberate decision to change yes or no, it makes it, yeah, sort of, yeah, in that sense, self-learning because you also learn to decide, okay, this is when I have to do something. This is when I can just stay put because it doesn't affect it wasn't about the system, but it was about something else.
Yeah, it creates a lot of clarity as well,
Yeah.
because everybody has a set of fine-grained roles. So you're not just a data scientist, but you have maybe you're the GitHub maintainer and you're the language model tuner, and you have
Yeah.
very specific set of roles instead of having one broad description that might be unclear at times.
Okay, cool. You're from South Africa, or
Yes,
originally actually from Namibia, even.
correct.
Um, but you started Autoscriber in the Netherlands. Why in the Netherlands? And yeah, why in the Netherlands? Is it why is the Netherlands such a great place to start?
Yeah, so two parts to that answer. So on the
Uh,
one hand, we actually were in South Africa when we started the company. It was during COVID times,
okay.
and we were working remotely with the LUMC.
Mm-hmm.
And my co-founder Koen, he's from the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
So we had that connection already. So when COVID finished, we decided to move the customer facing and our headquarters and then most of our operations back over to the Netherlands.
Uh-huh.
Um, but there are definitely a lot of positives to having the business in the Netherlands. And the one that I always found the most striking about Dutch business culture is the entrepreneurial mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So I really find that very evident across the way that everybody works. Everyone that I meet in this sector just has this kind of predisposition to entrepreneurship and also an understanding of how entrepreneurship works. It's deeply embedded in the culture. I see it when we work with clients, and also the way that the whole system is set up. So a lot of the governance and banking that we do is very much geared towards entrepreneurs and businesses, and that makes it a lot easier and more friendly for starting up a company.
Can you give an example of that entrepreneurship?
So yeah, in which way now, in the culture or
Yeah, in the
in
cultural way.
yeah, I think the first evidence that I saw of it was actually when I met when I went into AI consulting. I
Mm,
joined a company that was run by two Dutch guys, including my now co-founder, and
mm,
um, they approached things very differently and very much focused on how can we innovate, what kind of products can we build, and it was just a mindset of what if, and what if we built this, and what if we made this into a product. And it was the same when we started working with LUMC. We were actually consulting for them
mm-hmm,
on this project, and they were so supportive of us building this into a product because they wanted to launch it to the entire healthcare industry and not just make it a single project available to them. And I found that really, really cool, and a really different way of doing business, that everyone is excited to launch things into the market and see how far we
mm-hmm.
can take them.
So innovation driven and openness.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and
That's
it's a great starting point for us to expand into the rest of Europe as well. So we have Germany just next door, which is a very big market in the European
uh-huh.
space. So it makes it easy for us to expand from there.
Yeah. Uh, on the expansion plans, any plans to go back to to build this in South Africa or Namibia?
So we already actually have some footing in the South African market. So we're
Uh-huh.
getting a lot of interest from there as well. Um, Also have some interest from the Namibian market, but it's quite a small country, so I don't
Yeah.
know. I think we'll first focus on Europe before we go there.
Okay. Okay, no, that's cool. I was just wondering, given the background, sometimes I hear people really saying like, okay, ultimately I also want to have this in my own home country.
Yeah, so we actually we have a partnership with one of the biggest EHR providers that's also active in South Africa, and they're already working on distributing it there.
Okay. I want to move towards the end of the podcast. I have two questions left for you. One is I have an arrangement with Jacqueline van der Ende. Other Jacqueline.
Mhm.
She's the co-founder of Carbon Equity. That's a climate tech investor. And she told me when I interviewed her, well, this podcast has to be irrelevant in 10 years from now, which is by the end of 2032. And my question to you is, how can we make this happen?
I really like that, um, and I think it's a interesting question. I would actually, after I answer you, I would like to hear if you already have some thoughts of your own on that. But
Mm-hmm,
I think in general, what this podcast is doing now is already a very big help in that regard. So I think just increased visibility of
mm-hmm,
female role models in tech roles is one of the most effective ways that we can move towards having more women in the space. So just
mm-hmm,
showing young women and girls that it is possible and it is acceptable to be working in this field and that they can succeed. What I would like to see more of in terms of content along these lines is actually coverage of male female teams that work together successfully. So I think a lot of initiatives that are focused on female empowerment sometimes inadvertently result in females being like singled out or even like isolated from the rest of the group, when I think the real power is actually when diverse teams work together as male and female mixed towards achieving a certain goal. So I think having some more coverage on that will also show that
Yeah.
it has real business advantages for everyone, and that it's possible to build successful teams as well.
Yeah. Well, you've just basically summarized why I'm doing this work. Provide a platform also for women to shine, but also to seek that collaboration to create, let's say, for lack of a better word, a big team with men and women, so we can change this, let's say, the numbers of women in tech together. Because I think there's also involvement of men needed to make that happen.
Definitely.
So
Definitely.
that's
Have you
that.
received some interesting answers on that question?
Oh yeah, many circle around role models and visibility. Off the top of my head, that is actually the main theme. What I'm starting to hear slowly, you're the second today who's mentioning this, is that it's not just a women's game to change this. That we actually need diverse teams,
Yeah.
which includes also men and even middle-aged white cis men like myself.
Exactly. Yeah.
But that is what I would call an emerging trend. I was curious about one thing. Let's say I'm a woman and I'm or a young girl about 18, and I'm interested in math, and I'm interested in the medical space and improving people's life. What would be your career advice to her?
I would definitely look at getting into one of the more technical fields. So doing a lot of research on what really excites you
Mm-hmm.
would be a good place to start. So going to the open days at various universities and just seeing what the different departments have to offer,
Mm-hmm.
um, and finding something that really resonates with you, and maybe even giving something a try that you didn't consider before. I'm always a fan of engineering studies. I'm
Mm-hmm.
very biased though, because that's what I
Yeah.
studied. But I think it's a very diverse field because you just learn how to solve problems from the ground up. You get a lot of exposure to different areas of technology, and also, like I said, business. And I think it's a widely applicable field. So that's something that I would always recommend looking into as well, because it's just a good building block for anything that you want to do.
Yeah. Sounds like a great place to wrap. Thank you very much, Jacqueline Kazmaier, for this wonderful conversation. If people want to learn more about you and or connect with you or learn more about Autoscriber, where would you like to send them?
I think following us on LinkedIn is a good start. So just Autoscriber on LinkedIn, or our website at autoscriber.com.
Great, and we'll include those links in the show notes.
Awesome.
So
Thanks a lot for having me.
you're welcome, and thanks a lot for being my guest. And listeners, thank you very much for listening, and I hope to see you all in the next episode. Well, that's a wrap for episode 56. Thank you for listening to this episode of Women Disrupting Tech with Jacqueline Kazmaier on how AI can improve the patient experience. Jacqueline and I hope that you've enjoyed our conversation as much as we did. And if you'd like to learn more about Jacqueline or Autoscriber, feel free to connect with her via the links in the show notes. As usual, you can find the show notes at womendisruptingtech.blog. Shout out also to the team of Lumo Labs for connecting us. In the next episode of Women Disrupting Tech, we'll learn from Wafa Meriba how you can build a career in AI as a woman. And if you'd like to be the first to learn when this episode comes online, feel free to subscribe to my weekly newsletter about Women Disrupting Tech. You can find the links also in the show notes. When you're a woman and you're looking for a role model to inspire your own hero's journey into tech, please check out one of the other 55 episodes of this podcast on Spotify, Apple, Good Pods, and YouTube. Yes, you heard it right. We're also on YouTube now. If you're a regular listener, would you consider giving the show a rating or a review? Because that way you help other people discover the podcast and you help me spread the word. If you're a male ally and you want to help Jacqueline and the other 55 women disrupting tech make this podcast obsolete by the end of 2032, there's a simple thing you can do. Please share the podcast with friends, family, and co-workers because this way you give Jacqueline and my other guests the platform they need to make it happen. Finally, if you want to connect with me, reach out via dirkjan@womendisruptingtech.blog or send me a DM on LinkedIn. Just look up my name and you'll find me. With that, I wish you a wonderful day. I hope to see you in the next episode. And in the meantime, keep being awesome.